Hey everybody, my name is Rob Galvin. Thanks for joining today for today's Dev Talk webinar series. Thanks for joining us live. I really appreciate you. I know you're busy coding, building great apps, and I really appreciate you attending live. And want to thank you for joining us today. So, just a quick reminder before we get started into the topic of today, we have our developer events section up on the developer community, and I wanted to just remind everybody that you can find past Dev Talk recordings there. And the next webinar that we have coming up is November 16th. It's a few short weeks away, and the topic will be Data Wedge. So we haven't talked about Data Wedge as a whole in a while. So we're going to give you a latest update on what's going on with Data Wedge, all of the new features that we're planning on putting into it, as well as going through some of the advanced features in more detail. So look forward to the next Dev Talk coming up in a few weeks on November 16th. And today's topic will be Enterprise Browser. We have a new Enterprise Browser release, and today's presenter is Abhineet Agarwal, who's the lead software engineer for Enterprise Browser. So thanks for joining us today, Abhineet.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so Abhineet's going to cover the Enterprise Browser, and before we, Abhineet, I'm just going to make you presenter. I just want to remind everybody to just put in your questions into the question section for GoToMeeting, and we're going to queue up all the questions at the end. Abhineet has several slides to go through, and once we get to the end of the presentation, we'll open it up for questions. But as the presentation is going, please just enter your comments and questions in the question area. So, all right, Abhineet, I think we're seeing your desktop right now, so it's all yours if you want to start presenting.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. This is Abhineet here. As Rob has already mentioned, that I'm going to speak about Enterprise Browser 1.5, which is the next version of Enterprise Browser product. So, as everyone knows, that Enterprise Browser is a cross-mobile platform application which works on WMC and Android application. So it has a rich set of features, rich set of APIs, and it is compliant to latest HTML5 and CSS3 features. So what is new in Enterprise Browser 1.5? We can see in the next slide. We have new features. We have a new API called Remote Notification, which is basically used from WT6000 device, which is Frenzy device, and tightly coupled with RS6000 external scanner hardware. Then we have function key mapping, which is required for which is supported on Jabra Omni XT15 and Workabot Pro 4 WM device. Then the next feature is WebKit disk caching on WMC environment. Then we have another feature called licensing through barcode scanning on Android platform. Earlier, this feature was not available in Enterprise Browser product. Now, from Enterprise Browser 1.5, one can license the Enterprise Browser product using barcode scanning. Then we have also provided a new feature for enabling mass deployment of configuration file on Android platform. We have a customizable user agent support for Android platform from EB 1.5 version. We have also supporting Chrome debugging feature via config parameter on Android platform. Then we have a partial wake lock support for Android platform. We have a support for external scanner hardware on Android platform, which gives the status for connection and which gives the status when the external scanner is connected or disconnected. Then we have also rebranded the Jabra visuals like icon and splash screen based on the organization standard. Then we have migrated the Enterprise Browser online document to TechDocs for Enterprise Browser 1.4 and 1.5 version. Then we have also supported a new config tag called Autoplay Media Elements on Android platform. Then we have also exposed from Enterprise Browser 1.4 and upcoming Enterprise Browser 1.5 the backward compatibility APIs, which is Pocket Browser 3.x APIs and Row Elements 2.x APIs. Pocket Browser 2.x APIs are not part of, is not being exposed as of now. Then we have sample code snippets, which is going to be part of Enterprise Browser blog for various APIs, which will be helpful for the end customer to use to how to basically use the APIs when they are integrating on their web application. Then we have new device support. Speaking about WMC, we have Workabout Pro 4, Windows Mobile CE device, Windows Mobile device. Then we have VS10 CE 6.0 device, Omni XT15 CE 6.0 device, Omni XT15 Windows Mobile device. So these are the 4 WMC devices which we are currently supporting on Enterprise Browser 1.5 new device. Then we have a new Android device which we are supporting in EB 1.5, which is MC67 Android KitKat, TC70 Android Lollipop, TC75 Android Lollipop, WT6000 Android Lollipop. Then we are also supporting external scanner hardware, which is RS6000, RS4000, and RS507. So these are the list of new devices which are going to be supported from Enterprise Browser 1.5. Now I will explain one by one what all feature, whatever feature which is supported on Enterprise Browser 1.5. So as I mentioned earlier, that we are providing support. We have implemented a new API called Remote Notification on Enterprise Browser 1.5 version. So basically, this API is used for notifying the external device, external Bluetooth device with some information. So in order to those devices could be this remote notification API is currently supported on WT6000 and it is tightly coupled with RS6000. So we have several methods like enumerate, enable, notify, disable, clear properties. These methods can be used for getting the remote notification object which is present in the device, and then can enable the external then can enable the respective notification object using enable method, and then they can invoke the notify method for notifying the particular external scanner or external Bluetooth hardware. In our case, RS6000 is external scanner hardware, so user can notify the external scanner hardware, which is RS6000 in our case. So using notify method, they can send the notification information to the device. Then we have a disable method, which is basically used for disabling the remote notification device. Then we have a clear properties, which is used for clearing the properties related to LED, vibrator, and beeper settings. So remote notification API is actually we are currently supporting LED, vibrator, and beeper remote notification objects. So RS6000 has beeper objects, LED objects, and vibrator objects. So we can notify if when notifying LED will blink, when notifying the vibrator, then vibrator objects will allow the RS6000 to vibrate. Then when we notify for beeper, RS6000 will beep. So these APIs can be used for basically notifying any external Bluetooth hardware from Enterprise Browser application. As of now, we are supporting RS6000, but in future we are also going to provide support for other external Bluetooth hardware using remote notification API. Then we have a function key mapping, which is particularly meant for two WM devices, which is Omni XT15 WH and Workabout Pro 4 WH. Basically, in these two devices, what we have seen is the function key mapping. When any particular function key is being pressed, it does not return the Microsoft standard value. So in order to map with the Microsoft standard value, we are using the function key mapping feature on from EB 1.5 version. So user can basically map the right Microsoft standard value using the XML, which is EB function key mapping.xml, and it must be provided into the enterprise browser install directory location, and after mapping the right Microsoft standard value using EB function key mapping.xml, user need to enable this feature, for which we are providing a config tag called function key mapping to standard MS value. So if this is enabled and if EB function key mapping.xml is present in the device with the proper syntax, what is being defined in our online document under template 1 and template 2 section of function key mapping online document, then user can observe that on XT15 WEH device and Walkabout Pro 4 WEH device, when any function key is pressed, it will return the mapped value. In our case, because we are mapping to Microsoft standard value, it will map to the right Microsoft standard value. So for an example, if this feature is not being used, and any user is going and pressing from enterprise browser application, say for an example F1 function key, and the value what is being returned by the underlying layer is different than what we expected, which is 112. So using this feature, when we are pressing F1, the user will be getting 112 if they are mapping the same in EB function key mapping.xml. So the detail can be this detail is already being captured in the online documentation. User can further go and refer the online documentation. So I have also mentioned the example here with respect to function key mapping. So basically here you can see that I mentioned step 1, that function key mapping to standard MS value tag is being enabled, and then under step 2 you can see that I am creating a EB function key mapping.xml using one of the template which is defined in the online document with the proper syntax. With that, when this XML is created, the user need to place the respective XML in the program file enterprise browser directory. That means it is the install directory of enterprise browser application, and then user need to ensure to relaunch the enterprise browser application and press the any particular function key which was defined in the EB function key mapping.xml for mapping purpose. He will be able to observe that either from the HTML key down attribute, which is key down or key up, or through key capture module, which is RE2.x key capture module, or EB1.x key capture module. The user will be able to see that the right value is being captured, which is 112 for F1 function key. Then we have also introduced a 3 configuration tag with respect to WebKit disk caching, which allows to enable the disk caching from enterprise browser application. This one of the tag which we have introduced newly on WMC platform is disk cache, which is used for maximum cache size. Basically, it is used for specifying the maximum amount of device storage, which will be in MB, which will be used for web page caching. When this is set when the value is set under config tag disk cache, then any particular page which is being hit from the enterprise browser application, at the first time it may take some time based on the speed of the network, but the second time onwards, because it is already being cached, the performance will be increased, will be improved. So this is one of the tag disk cache. Then we have another config tag related to WebKit disk caching, which is disk cache path, which basically specify the cache location where the caching will be stored. So using disk cache path, the user can specify the right location where the caching need to be stored. Then we have a disk cache exp time factor, which is another config tag related to WebKit disk caching. It is used for specifying the time period till the same page can be retrieved from the cache path location and not from the server location. So using the disk cache expiry time factor, one can specify that what is the time period for the expiry of the page which is being cached. So here below you can see the example that I have mentioned. Disk cache value is equal to 5 MB. Then disk cache path is equal to install directory location of enterprise browser product, and then disk cache exp time factor equal to 10. So this 10, the value 10 is in percentage. So this is about WebKit disk caching. Then as we have introduced barcode scanning under license validation. So on Android platform now, when user want to do license validation, user can basically use the Imager or Ledger barcode scanner for scanning the particular barcode which is related to licensing. So this is a new feature introduced in EB 1.5. Then we have another feature called enabling configuration mass deployment on Android platform. So earlier, when user was doing mass deployment in enterprise browser application, there was a extra step required for mass deployment. Like first, they were in need of pushing the enterprise browser binaries into the Android device, then installing the enterprise browser application into the device, then launching the application. Then fourth step was like copy the config.xml which was created during launch of an enterprise browser application, and then customize based on the user detail config.xml under from his local PC or from admin location, and then push the same to the and then pushing the customized XML to the device. So there was always a need of like launching the application, then getting the config.xml, modifying it, and pushing back to the device. So the extra two step was always needed for mass deployment. So we have removed this extra step of for mass deployment purpose. So now what user can do is he can have a customized config.xml and can place that customized config.xml under mass storage location / enterprise browser directory. So which is independent of pushing the enterprise browser binaries, installing the enterprise browser application, and launching, and then copying the config.xml and modifying it. It has nothing to do with the previous process. Basically, now what user need to do will be like put the customized config.xml under mass storage location / enterprise browser directory, push the enterprise browser binaries. Third step will be install the enterprise browser application. Now there is no need of launching the enterprise browser application, copying the config.xml and modifying it and again pushing it. Basically, he can launch the application, and what will happen is whatever customized config.xml which we have placed under mass storage location and / enterprise browser directory during enterprise browser when enterprise browser application is launching, that time it will make a check whether customized config.xml is present under mass storage location / enterprise browser directory or not. If it is present, it will copy config.xml from that location, and it will place under enterprise browser install directory location, and it will also keep a backup under mass storage location / enterprise browser directory. So in this way, only 3 steps will be required for mass deployment. Previously 5 steps was required for mass deployment. So is now removed. Extra step is now no more required for mass deployment. So one more thing I want to add here is like for mass deployment, user can also do similarly as the user do for customized config.xml. User can also do the same procedure for keycode mapping.xml as well. So similarly for keycode mapping.xml also, user can go and can place under mass storage location / enterprise browser directory, which is please note that here mass storage location / enterprise browser directory is not the enterprise browser install directory. Enterprise browser install directory is present under android data / com.symbol.enterprise browser directory. So both the directories location are different and are independent of each other. We have also provided a support for customizable user agent for Android platform. So the format for we have provided support from Android KitKat version, and the format for from Android Jelly Bean version, but the format for Android Jelly Bean is different when we compare with the format for Android KitKat and above version. So we have introduced a new variables like Android version, device model, build number, local, uh, /w, which is meant for Apple WebKit version, then /e, which is meant for KHTML WebKit version, then %c, which is used for Chrome WebKit version, then %w again for mobile Safari WebKit version, then Mac variable, ESN variable. Mac is used for getting the Wi-Fi MAC address on the device, and ESN is used for serial number of the device. So basically the user agent tag which was supported earlier on WMC, now it is also supported on Android platform. So you can see that if suppose user want to set tag on Android KitKat and above version, he can use the format what is being specified in this slide for under format for Android KitKat and above version. You can see that I have mentioned user agent value with the right format for Android KitKat and above version. So please note here that user agent tag, whatever we specify, based on the correct format, whatever we specify that is being retrieved during runtime. For an example, if user want to get the value of navigator.useragent, so if user agent value which is being set in the config tag consists say MAC and ESN, it will also specify under navigation.useragent means the data whatever is being written by navigation.useragent will also specify the details related to MAC and ESN. And if we are not specifying any value under user agent tag in config.xml for Android platform, then whatever is the default value which is being retrieved from the default Android browser, the same will be written from the enterprise browser application also. So so the user just need to ensure that the format is correctly specified when they are setting the user agent tag, irrespective of Android KitKat or Jelly Bean or above version. Then we have we have also provided a support for Chrome debugging via config tag parameter for Android platform. So this actually provides ability to debug application on Android device using enterprise browser application. But only thing user need to ensure that debug mode enable tag, which is a new configuration tag which is introduced in EB 1.5 is enabled as shown in the example. And user also need to ensure that the device is connected physically with the system, with the desktop machine or with the laptop machine. So USB connection should be established between the device and the desktop machine in which we are going to basically do the debugging. Chrome, we are going to debug the page which is being rendered in the enterprise browser application in the device. So two things is like debug mode enabled tag should be enabled. Physical connection should be established between device and PC, and third thing is like after launching the enterprise browser application, means after following the previous steps, user need to open the Google Chrome browser and should enter Chrome inspect on the address bar, and it will show the respective device and the respective page which is currently rendered in the enterprise browser application. So you can see in the demo page, in the sample page which I am showing in the current slide, that when I have hit Chrome inspect, because I have connected TC70 device, and because I have also enabled debug mode enable value, so the device was listed, and I was able to basically inspect and debug the page from the Chrome browser, which was present in my local PC. So the page which I was debugging here was useragent.html. So that is also listed here. Then we have also introduced a new feature called partial wake lock on Android platform. It basically controls whether the CPU will remain active whenever the power button is pressed. Otherwise, it turns off the screen and keyboard backlight. So by default, this partial wake lock is disabled as it affects battery life. So when we enable the partial wake lock, basically when we acquire partial wake lock on Android device, it makes the CPU CPU will remain active at that point of time. So we don't want to do every time. Whenever it is required, we can enable it. So in order to enable it, we have a wake lock config tag, which is wake lock type, wherein we need to pass a value called partial wake lock. Or otherwise, if user has not set the config tag, then we have also it can also be accessible using the EB1.x JavaScript API, which is present under device module, that is acquire partial wake lock and release partial wake lock. So acquire partial wake lock method is used for acquiring the partial wake lock, and release partial wake lock is used for releasing the partial wake lock. So the advantage of this is like when a particular page is being rendered from the enterprise browser application, and say it has set some timeout for the particular functionality to invoke. So when power button is pressed, what happens is like sometimes we see that in like for an example, TC55 device of some variant of TC55 device also disables the CPU does not remains active when we press the power button. Does not remains active. That means CPU does not remain active. Screen is turned off, and keyboard backlight is also turned off. So in such cases, what happens is our JavaScript whatever need to be our JavaScript function which need to be invoked on certain time interval, that is not being executed from the enterprise browser application. So now with this feature, what happens is when user acquires the partial wake lock, CPU will remain active, which means that at any interval, if any JavaScript function need to be invoked from the enterprise browser application, that will be in runnable state, and it will be invoked properly. So this need to be done. This need to be acquired only if it is required, or else we should not enable it by default, or we should not acquire it by default. This is only for this should only be acquired if it is required. Then we have also provided a support for external scanner Bluetooth hardware. Basically, we have provided a support for connection and disconnection listener support for Android platform. So basically, this feature will provide user to take the necessary action when the external scanner such as RS507, 6000 or 4000 is connected or disconnected from the Android device. So suppose enterprise browser application is running on the device, and we have a connection. We have connected, say, RS6000 device, external scanner hardware device with WT6000 device. Say, for an example, we have a WT6000 device, which is a Frenzy device to which RS6000 is connected. So when enterprise browser application is launched, previously when we were disconnecting the means if we are disconnecting RS6000 device, what will happen is the status of RS6000, whether it has been disconnected, connected, was never being retrieved under enterprise browser application, because that feature was not implemented till EB 1.4. So we have introduced a new feature called connection disconnection listener, which allows user to get the status, to retrieve the status of when the external scanner is connected or disconnected from the device. So we have introduced this, we have implemented this feature under RoElements 2.x scanner API, which is a backward compatibility API, and also we have implemented or introduced a new feature under EB 1.x barcode API. In case of RE2.x scanner API, we have introduced an event called connection listener event, which need to be registered when RoElements 2.x scanner API is used for scanning the barcode. Similarly, if user is using barcode API, enterprise browser barcode API, then we have introduced a new method called add connection listener or remove connection listener. JavaScript methods. These are JavaScript methods which can be used for registering and getting the status of connection and disconnection of respective external scanner hardware. Please note that RE2.x scanner API, the feature connection listener event, which is implemented under RoElements 2.x scanner API, is applicable from Android Lollipop platform only, whereas add connection listener and remove connection listener JavaScript method, which is introduced under enterprise browser barcode API, is providing support for Android KitKat and above platform. So to be noted here is that it is not supported on TC70 GA1 device. That means the non-rebranded device which comes with the Motorola tag, that is not supported. So here is an example for connection listener event, which is being implemented under RoElements 2.x scanner API. So basically what we are doing here is we are registering scanner by using a scanner object dot connection listener event, and we are registering do connection listener method, which is nothing but a callback method which will be fired whenever the external scanner is connected or disconnected, and the connection listener event when registered, and when the particular external scanner is connected or disconnected, it returns the details as shown in it sends the detail as a JSON as a JSON data. So the data whatever we are passing as an argument under the do connection listener method, there the data is getting stored. So those data are related to connection state, connection type, decoder type, device type, friendly name, and is default scanner. So for an example, if I have connected RS6000 and RS4000 device, so external scanner hardware to the WT6000 Frenzy device, so when I have registered this method, scanner.connection listener event method, that time when if I am, say for an example, if I am removing RS4000 pluggable serial SSI scanner from the if I am disconnecting it, then do connection listener method will be fired, and it will provide the information related to the pluggable serial scanner connection state, connection type, decoder type, device type, friendly name, and each default scanner. Similarly, it will be giving information when RS6000 is disconnected or connected, and similarly, it will also give for RS507. So this is an example for RE2.X scanner API. Then we have, as I have mentioned earlier, that we are also providing support from Enterprise Browser Barcode API. So the methods which we have exposed from Barcode API Barcode APIs are add connection listener and remove connection listener. So you can see that one can see that I am invoking using EB namespace, then followed by the barcode module object, then invoking the add connection listener method, and wherein I am passing a callback which is named as my callback in this case. So when add connection listener method is invoked, and when the particular external scanner or pluggable serial scanner is disconnected or connected, the values the my callback method will be fired, and it will consist the data with respect to those hardwares which has been connected or disconnected. So here also we are getting the information related to connection state, connection type, decoder type, device type, friendly name, and each default scanner. Now if user do not want to get the information again and again, then they can just invoke a method called eb.barcode.remove connection listener, which will ensure that the connection listener status of respective external scanner hardware will not be called basically. So this is the example from Enterprise Browser Barcode API. Then we have also rebranded, as I have mentioned earlier, based on the organization standards. So the new Zebra visual rebrandings for icon is mentioned in this slide, and for splash screen as well. So this is the Zebra visual rebranding in EB 1.5. Then we have migrated to TechDocs from Enterprise Browser. Means we have migrated the Enterprise Browser online document to TechDocs. So earlier version Enterprise Browser 1.4 and upcoming Enterprise Browser 1.5 online content or document will now be present under TechDocs domain, TechDocs link. So other TechDocs TechDocs also contains information related to EMDK, StageNow, all those things. So now Enterprise Browser will also be part of TechDocs. Will also be present under TechDocs location. Currently, basically for EB 1.4 case, as it was already released in Jan 2016, and it was already having the online document available for the end users. So now going forward from the time when EB 1.5 is released, if user is hitting the URL for EB 1.4 older link, if they are trying to hit, then it will basically redirect to TechDocs link for Enterprise Browser 1.4 online documentation. Please note that currently our online documentation is present under zebrastage.github.io, which will as soon as EB goes live, EB 1.4 goes live, it will be posted under techdocs.zebra.com domain. So you can see that our online documentation, which is currently present under TechDocs, this version is of is Enterprise Browser 1.5. So this is the way it will look now. Then we have also provided a support, a new config tag called autoplay media elements, which is by default enabled on our Enterprise Browser application. This feature is supported on Android platform. This is required for controlling whether media elements will automatically be played when autoplay attribute is being set under the HTML page under audio element. So you can see in the below example under HTML example that I have a audio tag where it consists of controls attribute and autoplay attribute. So basically, if autoplay media element config tag is enabled in the config tag, and if autoplay is called, if autoplay is set in the HTML page under audio tag, then as soon as this is executed, the particular audio file will be played. If autoplay media element config tag is not enabled and it is disabled, then irrespective of autoplay attribute is set in the HTML page or not, the uh, the audio file will not be played automatically, and it need to be played by clicking on the play button from the enterprise browser application. So this is a new feature again introduced in EB 1.5. Then we have also introduced we have also exposed a backward compatibility API that is Pocket Browser 3.x API, which we are supporting on enterprise browser application. Then we are also supporting legacy row elements 2.x API from enterprise browser application. So previously the online documentation for Pocket Browser 3.x APIs and row elements 2.x APIs was not available under enterprise browser online document, but we have provided from EB 1.5 release. So basically now our older online document, which is enterprise browser 1.4, and the upcoming enterprise browser 1.5 will expose the API sets for Pocket Browser 3.x and row elements 2.x APIs. Here is the way it will look like when user will click on API sets from the enterprise browser. Means if user is hitting to the enterprise browser online document, then earlier user were able to see only enterprise browser API. Now it will also list Pocket Browser 3.x and row elements 2.x. So here is the view of how it will look like. Then we are going to provide the sample code snippets for a few APIs, which is commonly used by the end users, like barcode, signal, battery, printer, key capture, intent, network, EZ, NFC, camera, and signature capture API. So using by referring to these sample code snippets, user can easily be able to create the application, their web application on enterprise domain using any one of these APIs. So that's all from my end. If there is any question, please let me know.
All right, Abhinath. Yeah, thanks a lot. There are a few questions in the queue, and if you're still on, if you can type any other questions, we do have another 10 minutes or so before the end of the call. So yeah, the first question, Abhinath, and I'm not sure if you know the answer to this, is when will we see support for the WT600 for enterprise browser?
Can you come again? When we are?
When will we see support for the WT600?
600 or 6000?
It says WT600.
No, I need to get back. I need to speak with the product manager and the product owner that when we can support WT600. As of now, we are supporting WT6000. So I need to check. I need to go back and need to check with the product manager and the product owner. So I will get back to you on this.
Okay. Next question: can we get the slide deck? Yeah. So we will be posting the slide deck on the developer portal, where you were able to see the registration for this webinar. We will include the recording and also the presentation. So just you should probably see that in the next day or two, definitely by the end of the week. Okay. So we'll post a slide deck there. The next question says, is the ESN value the actual Zebra serial number on the label on the device, or is it the cell IMEI? or is it something else? I'm not sure where you started talking about ESN numbers, but
Okay. When I was speaking about the user agent tag, am I right?
yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So basically, it is the serial number of the device. So whatever is mentioned when user go and check the details of serial number from the device, whatever is being listed there, that will be retrieved and it will be shown when user is trying to collect the data using navigation.useragent.
yes, I think it might be different on each device, but as far as the label
Yes,
goes, on the device, but I
yes.
don't think it's the IMEI number. It's just a unique serial
No,
number
it's
for
not IMEI number. You're
yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So where you would find that number is going to be unique for the device. Definitely, when you got the
Correct,
device in the packaging, you'll see it. It may actually
correct.
show somewhere else in the Android settings screen. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it will be showing under Android settings screen, or I believe it will also show when we remove the battery. There also it reflects the serial number. So there also you can user can observe that what is the serial number of the device.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's see what other questions came in. When will this EB 5.1 be launched? Is there onboarding tutorials for new developers? So I believe we're going through the launch process now or shortly, right, Abhinit?
Uh, you mean to say for Enterprise
When
Browser
is the
1.5
download
when
going to be ready?
when is the demo ready?
The download is available today?
No, 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 no. Okay, you are talking about download. No, it is not available as of now, but soon it is going to be available. I probably with in another 3 to 4 working days it will be available.
Okay. So sometime
Yeah.
by next week, we should have the download available for EB
Yes.
1.5. As far
Yes.
as onboarding tutorials for new developers, if you head over to techdocs.zebra.com when the download is available,
As
you'll
soon
be able to
as
see the documentation.
Yeah, yeah. As soon as we get the notification that the down binaries are available under the Launchpad, we will initiate the request, and I believe in another 15 to 20 minutes, as soon as it is available under Launchpad, we will initiate the request, and hopefully it will be available in another, say, 4 to 5 hours, as soon as the binaries are available in the Launchpad. So probably say 5 to 6 hours, or say one day maximum.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. I don't see any other questions in the queue. Actually, there is another one. I missed it. So,
Yeah.
is the backward compatibility API for Pocket Browser supported for both the Android and Windows CE versions
Yes,
of Enterprise Browser?
supported. Yes, it is supported for both the platforms. For Android case, there is only one condition that user need to use the elements.js file before invoking any Pocket Browser APIs, because it contains the object definition, all those things residing under elements.javascript file. So that need to be included in the web page from where Pocket Browser API is being invoked.
Yeah, and those details are documented in the documentation as well, as far as how do you enable
Yes,
backwards compatibility. Okay.
yes.
Let's see. What else? Any other questions for those who are still with us? I don't see any other questions in the queue.
Yeah.
Ebony, can you just jump back to the roadmap slide I think you had?
Okay. Just a minute.
Just to kind of let everybody
Yeah, it
see
is
that
very
one last
small.
time while we're waiting for questions. Any final questions?
Yeah.
Again, while we're waiting for final questions, the next Dev Talk is in November 16th, and we'll be covering Data Wedge. Okay, yeah. Great. So here's a nice little summary of this release. So we have some nice new features in here. If you guys have any other questions, please let me know. If you have any other questions once you download the release, please feel free to start a new discussion on Launchpad or the developer.zebra.com. you can, post it in the general, in the discussion area, and we'll be sure to answer your questions if you have any trouble with any of the issues with the release. So, all right, Abhinit, I don't see anything else coming in, so I want to thank you again for coming on
No
today and
problem.
presenting.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, everybody, thanks a lot for coming today, and we'll see you next time on the next Dev Talk.